Please join me in welcoming to the stage Martha Stewart. Thank you.
So I've got some questions for both of you, and then actually looks like we have a little bit of time for questions from the audience, and we're going to share that microphone over there. I'll get started, and I mentioned that this film had its beginnings, in a sense, here on the east end of Long Island. R.J. and or Martha, you guys want to just talk a little bit about how the project came together?
I'll start quickly, and then Martha will tell. Alina Cho, our friend who's here tonight, one of the film's producers, and my wife Jane, who's also here and also is one of the producers. We're scheduled to have dinner. We're, as you know now, Jane and I are both from Long Island, and here we were in Montauk and seeing our friend, and that afternoon, Alina called and asked if Martha Stewart could join us for dinner, and we said, well, of course. What a lovely thing that will be. And Martha and I spent that meal talking, and she told me stories about her childhood, about her background, about her family, about her grandparents, a barkeep and a steel mill worker, yes, and her early career and her time on Wall Street. And I was so engaged and compelled and also surprised. The background that Martha came from was not what I had imagined, but this was a story of 20th century America into 21st century America, and a woman who I knew and quickly understood even more richly, who represented it all, and of course had in many ways defined it all. And I got very excited about the possibility of telling Martha's story, which she seemed ready and interested and willing to tell. And we had several other meetings and then decided to work together. What's your version?
Well, I was actually thinking about that it was time to do a documentary. Documentaries were becoming more and more popular, and I didn't want to get lost in the crowd of so many documentaries. But so I interviewed a few people, and a few people had come to me to ask if I was interested in working with them, but they were all women, and I had worked in a almost all-woman company for a long time, and I really wanted to not work with a woman on my documentary. I thought maybe a man's eye on my life might be more interesting. So that's why I was looking around, and we stumbled upon you and Emma Gansett. Not really, but I had loved the September issue. And I also loved the Billie Eilish, and I thought here's somebody with a broad experience in documentary telling. So that's how it came about.
So Martha, as a viewer, I really appreciated the candor that you displayed in the film, and I'm wondering if you can just talk a little bit about trusting R.J. to tell your story and what the process of opening up like that was like for you.
Everybody says, are you surprised that I opened up? I'm a very opened up person. I just didn't ever talk about myself so much. I mean, this was the first time I actually talked about myself a little bit in a more personal way. But I've been writing about myself for 100 books. I've just finished my 100th book. It's coming out
Congratulations.
in a couple weeks. So it's not that, and my daughter calls me a narcissist because she thinks I talk about myself too much. But I don't think I'm a narcissist. She does, but I don't think I am. And so we argue about that, and it's a horrible thing. Really, that didn't get in the movie, thank God. But no, I have all of this stuff. I mean, that's the life. And I think to tell a life story, this is only part of my life. I mean, R.J. missed a whole lot, and there's more to tell. There's more to tell, but and it hasn't ended, has it? So it's kind of exciting.
I will say it's true that as I found Martha forthcoming, and I found her if there were things she didn't want to speak. I mean, you saw it. We made the film to tell the story of what the experience of digging through this story was like, and you know, if Martha didn't want to talk about something, as she says, she gave us the letter. She gave us the diary. She was, you know, there was a lot. She pointed us towards the Easter brunch footage. She, you know, and which nobody had ever seen, and somebody else had. There was, you know, this was a very the trust was there, and I point out also the courage to trust. Because it's not easy. It's not easy to, you know, be a subject in one of these films, so that's like, I guess the point I'm trying to remember. But here is the point. What I knew about Martha is that she doesn't like to spend time dwelling on the past. And she was very clear with me about that from the beginning. And she would say things to me like, when we were sitting for the interview, she would say things to me like, I went to therapy once for 10 minutes. I got up, I walked out of the room, and I told the doctor not to bill me. And now R.J. Cutler thinks he's going to put me in the therapist chair. And so there were things that, because Martha looks forward, Martha moves forward, Martha sprints forward, Martha sees the future, and as you learned in the film, Martha defines the future. She can see the raw material ahead of time, and she has spent her life. You know, she knew content was a thing when everybody thought content was 8 different things and they could never mix. Now it's the whole world, and I could go on, but again, you've seen the film. So knowing that Martha was somebody who doesn't like to look back but is always moving forward, we conducted the interviews in a way that would help her through that process. We had a series of Zoom conversations where we would talk about all the same things. And then by the time we got to the week of interviews, which we conducted at her home in Maine, we were able to dig into these things more fully and easily, even though, as you saw, it was, you know, a fascinating wrestle.
Martha, as you say, you know, you've written 100 books here at this point. What do you think is new that R.J. brings out in the film that a lot of people and your fans and readers didn't know about?
That's a very hard question. My fans, or the people who have been with me ever since I started writing in 1982, they sort of know what I'm about, I think. I think that they also know a lot more that's not in the film, which I wish had been a little bit more explained in the film, about how I've worked with thousands of fabulous, very talented people in my career. My company was built on sort of a cooperation between all the contributors to the pages of Martha Stewart Living magazine, which was like a revolutionary magazine, to the television shows that we did, all of that. I mean, that didn't come. That is not in that film so much, and that's to me a little bit of it is an omission. The fabulous relationship I had with so many like-minded people. You know, you can, and all of them are so successful. They're all doing amazing things, making films, making photos, making businesses, and so I just want to say that about that part. But you heard the voices of just a very few of my friends, and I think that there was room for more of that, I think, and I wish it had been in there.
Speaking of the voices in the film, R.J., it is voices in the film other than Martha, not on-camera interviews. Can you talk about the decision to stick with just having Martha be the only on-camera interview subject in the film?
Yeah, we're always kind of eager not to take for granted the notion of the talking head as a trope in documentary film. We want to be intentional, and we did do a number of sit-down interviews on camera with people, and it didn't really speak to me. Martha's interview spoke to me and was very exciting, and Martha as the voice of this story spoke to me and was very exciting. And when we tried pulling out the on-camera interviews and making them audio only, all sorts of exciting things happened, and it was very organic. So, Martha's story has been told many times, never by, as she said, never by Martha herself. And here was, in spite of the fact that, as Martha says, Martha would have made a different film. Of course, that's a common experience that I've had. But Martha's voice, I wanted Martha's voice at the center of this film, and having her on camera as the only person achieve that in a really powerful way.
Of course, please.
Alec Baldwin just left, and I've known him over the years just professionally, and he said he likes me better, which I thought was very nice, and that's a compliment to you.
Thank you. My man.
Another Long Island guy.
No, but he's always been very kind.
My next question is for you, Martha, and that is one that, as I was watching the film the first time, you say during the sequence that takes place in the Hamptons that it was the best era in the Hamptons. And I'm wondering if you can tell us why that era for you was the best era in the Hamptons, and what we can do out here to come have the next best era in the Hamptons.
Well, I bought my house at the behest of my daughter, Alexis. She had just gotten out of college. I had just gotten divorced, and she said, "Mom, you have to come to the Hamptons." She said, "You'll be happy out here."
What year was this?
1990, maybe 1980. I think I started looking around 1989 for a place. Ben Krupinski flew me out here in his little plane every weekend to look for houses. And then I found the wreck of Lily Pond Lane. How stupid, I could have bought anything, and I bought the stupid wreck of Lily Pond Lane. And I interviewed a few contractors, and they all said, "Oh, well, they'll do this and they'll do that." And you could buy anything at that time. It was really the time to buy a house out here, a nice house if you wanted to. But I saw the challenge, and I liked doing those projects. So Ben gave me the best estimate. He said, "Time and materials, and you'll get what you want." And so I hired Ben. You all probably all know the story of Ben and how sad that they died in their own plane crash a few years ago. But and I miss him. But that was the time when people were coming out here, investigating what could happen in the Hamptons. There was, just one movie theater right here on Main Street, and we were just laughing how many times we went into that movie theater to see movies on the weekends. There were very few stores. I mean, you're like in San Tropez now, or in Antibes with all these stores and all these fancy places. Louis Vuitton in East Hampton. And so, I mean, it's great, but it's also different. It's so different, and to be able to entertain. I mean, the restaurants were delicious. They were very nice, but not so many. You could actually walk to town. You could drive to town. Now it takes an hour to get from Lily Pond to Newtown Lane over here. But it was more rural. We were investing. Grey Gardens, it was still occupied, and with the originals. And the Maisels were making their film, and I got to know all those people. It was so much fun. I got to know everybody on Lily Pond Lane, and everybody talked to everybody. And now then the fences went up and the hedges got higher and the privacy became more of an important thing because there were so many tourists and so many outsiders. My daughter tells the story of going into the wonderful fish store, and a lady was in there and arguing with the fishmonger that she wanted the red lobsters, not the green lobsters. You know, cooked versus uncooked. But she didn't know. She thought they were really red lobsters. But, you know, and that was what was fun about the Hamptons then. It's different. And I still wish I had my house here just to come out for every now and then, but I don't have it. I go to Maine. It's
Come
different.
back in. Come back.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Another question for you quickly, Martha. I'm wondering, you know, this concept of perfect and perfection in the film. I'm wondering how your idea of perfection has evolved over the course of your life.
Me again?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think I said it in the film, something about my nephew counting how many times I said perfectly perfect in one of my television shows. And it was just an expression, for heaven's sake, you know? And I liked that people made fun of it because I was brought up by two teachers. My mom and my dad were both teachers. They were both harsh taskmasters. And, you know, there was the yardstick, and there was, there was a yardstick. And you had to do it right. And so it was so, and to be brought up by teachers, to respect our teachers. My mother kept saying, you don't want to be taught by a teacher who doesn't know what they're talking about. So I learned that, and I wanted to always, on my TV shows and in my magazine articles and whatever, I wanted everything to be as authentic and as accurate as possible. And that's what perfection is to me. Accuracy, authenticity, and that it works. Whatever project, whatever recipe, that they work. And that's being a good teacher. And if it takes perfection to do that, great.
R.J., I'm wondering if you can tell us what surprised you the most about Martha in making this film.
I knew this question was coming, and I think what surprised, I like to say, because it's true, that things don't surprise me because I'm not coming in with expectations. I'm coming in with curiosity. But I think the rawness of it all is what struck me. I don't want to say surprised, and I hope it's felt in the film. It's all felt, the whole life, and you just saw it, I think, now in the answer to that question. The whole life is present all the time. The lessons of childhood, the struggles and complexities of the upbringing of childhood. There's a reason why each of these chapters are so meaningful, and they seem cumulative in this person who, as I said before, is powering forward well into her 80s. The youngest, well into, I know, my bad, please.
Just entered.
Just entering her
Just
80s.
dipping her toes
the,
in.
The youngest 80 you'll ever see. But really, still as I described Kevin and Susan before as Martha's nearest and dearest, as they will tell me, still at the peak of her game, still running them ragged, still, and it all feels of a piece. And, so that's what struck me and what we aspired to, the tone we aspired to create in the film.
Martha, what is next for you? I know you've got the 100th book down under your belt, but what's next for you?
Well, we're working on a lot of different interesting projects. Our merchandising projects are still evolving, and we're still making thousands of different kinds of products. I'm very excited about writing the next book, and I just signed my contract, or just about to sign. It's sitting on my desk for my for my autobiography, a 3-part autobiography about my houses, my gardens, and me. And that's going to be a very fun, and I keep writing down the chapter heads for the autobiography, and they're so fun. It's going to be a funny autobiography. It's not going to be whiny, and it's not, and my father didn't beat me, and he had a strap, but who cares? I care about what really happened, and that autobiography is going to be a lot of fun to write. So there's one chapter which is only numbers, like how many times was I actually wired with a microphone in my life. I bet nobody's ever written down it, but I have a calendar that I kept about that. Wow. Isn't that weird?
A little bit. But I bet it's going to make for a good
Every
book.
time that he put a microphone on me, it's in there. But anyway, that's the way you listen.
That's why I was afraid to put one on you tonight. That's why we only have the one.
Well, this counts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. So we do have time for a couple of quick questions. I want to quickly first just thank the company West Out East for providing the nice setup that we're sitting on here. And I also want to just say we have time for a couple quick questions, ideally not comments, questions instead of comments. That's always better. So does anyone have any questions? Let me see. Yeah, hold on. Anyone? I know. Yep. Yes. Okay. Yes. Question is, if he hears you support Kamala Harris, and if Kamala Harris wins, would you press her for a full pardon? I think I heard that right.
I have been asked by attorneys ever since I got out of jail to ask for pardons, that they could get me a pardon. When Donald Trump said in some article that he was considering giving Martha Stewart a pardon, I got so many letters that if I accepted a pardon, including from my ex-husband, if I accepted a pardon from Donald Trump, no, they would never speak to me again. And that's true. I would have never accepted a pardon from Donald Trump. And I would, and it does, and by the way, I have no legal restrictions on me for having been spent time in jail and having been convicted. There is nothing. I can do anything I want now.
Damn right.
All of that has but that's all gone away. But I mean, I couldn't go to Canada for a while. Afterward, I'm so stupid. I had to sit in a room, and they had to check everything for hours and hours. But anyway, I absolutely support Kamala Harris for president. The alternative is absolutely unacceptable, including the vice president's candidate. And I'm sorry if there are any Trumpites in the audience, but you're crazy if you vote for Trump.
Yes, I have a question over there.
Indulge me for one comment. Your strength, vision, and fortitude are remarkable and admirable. You come across as a very serious person, yet post-prison, you have this turning point on the roast. You seem cool as a cucumber. Were you nervous? Did you have a vision that this was a big moment for you? And where did that humor come from? Is that in you and we don't see it?
So I'll just reiterate the question real quick. It's a question
yeah.
about the roast, and if you sort of were aware of what was coming from that, and were you nervous, and did you know to sort of go in that lighter direction?
Well, when the producers had asked me to come on the roast, I had met the subject, the young boy on the backstage at David Letterman, and I met.
You mean
his
Justin
mom.
Bieber?
Yeah, Justin.
Yes,
And
Alex's nephew, actually.
And I met his mom, and I met Scooter. Was it Scooter Braun? Yeah, I met Scooter backstage, and that was years before the actual request to be on the roast. So, and I like kids like that. I like what they're trying to do with their lives, and he was a mess at the time, 21-year-old mess. And to roast him, I thought it would be sort of fun. And my office, they all said, no, you cannot go out and roast Justin Bieber. It's not befitting. And I said, what do you mean not befitting? And then Susan Magrino and I actually worked on our roast. She helped me a lot, and she didn't want me to go either at first, but when we got into it, it was going to be fun. And I gave up. My family went down to St. Bart's. I think it was Christmas time or Easter vacation or something, and the grandchildren went down to St. Bart's, and I flew out to California instead and spent 3 days of my earned vacation roasting Justin Bieber. It was so much fun, and I knew that I was good at that. And my daughter had said to me, Mom, don't do it. You don't know even what a roast is. They're going to roast you too. And I had no idea how horrible that would feel. But I was sitting next to Snoop Dogg for 7 hours. And Snoop Dogg had smoked probably 17 blunts during that time. And I got all that smoke in my face the whole day long. And I felt really good by the time I got out to the microphone. I didn't like the coat I was wearing. That was a mistake. I hated that coat. And what's Ginn's first name? Andrew Ginn. Oh, I hate that coat so much. It's still hanging in the closet. But it was so much fun. And that I got applauded for it was even more fun. Too long an answer.
Very good. Great. Okay, in the back center. Yes, I can't actually. Yes, right there in the orange coat. Yes. So I think I heard most of that, and it was, referenced all the magazines and different things you've started, and then asked if you would consider starting a project that was more finance-oriented, business-oriented, business and finance-oriented. Martha Stewart.
Well, the Shark Tank has asked me to come out a lot. That's kind of a great program. I watch that while I'm doing my paperwork at night. I turn it on just to see what they're talking about. But it's I've thought about it. I don't think I'm going to do that.
There we go.
Yeah.
There was a second part of the question, but I'm afraid I couldn't hear it.
But I do help people. I do. When people come for advice, I do try to help them. But it's not a business.
Got it. I think we have time for one more quick question if anyone has a... Yes. Well, I see here in the middle in a black shirt. Yes.
My question is, have you and Hillary Clinton gotten together and talked about this guy, Comey?
Yeah. So the question is, have you and Hillary Clinton, who's going to be sitting here where you're sitting in about 14 hours, got together to talk about Jim Comey? Yeah, it pretty amazing.
No, we actually haven't. She's a friend. I consider her a friend and a neighbor, and I love her, and that all of that happened to her is again an abomination, but it did happen, and it's in the past, and I hope that we can avoid that in the future.
Indeed. Well put.
And where the hell is Comey now?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I want to thank R.J. and Martha so much for sharing your film and your story with us, Martha. It's been absolutely incredible to have you. We want you to come back and usher in the next best era of the Hamptons. So thank you so much. Thank you, R.J. Thank you, Netflix.
Thank you, audience.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.